What's going on, everyone? It is the Derp, and today I am bringing you an absolutely busted Felwinter's build for your Warlock. This build is going to be all about support as well as weakening as many enemies as possible. So the best part about this build is you can run this either solo or in a fire team. Your fire team will love you because, of course, everything you touch is going to be weakened. And you will love you with this build because everything is easily defeated no matter what activity you are running in. So if you've been looking for a build featuring weapons like third iteration, Tina makes a comeback in this video, and of course, Felwinter's Helm with the ability to handle all champs and situations. Look no further. This build is for you. Let's get it going. To get us started on our Felwinter's support Warlock build, we got to go over the super. My personal super of choice is going to be Needlestorm. The reason that I'm going to pick up Needlestorm is because, one, when I pick up an Orb of Power, I want Woven Mail, and also with the artifact, anytime that you have Woven Mail, you get increased grenade and class ability energy. However, some of you might be thinking right off the bat, well, do I need to use Needlestorm for everything? No, you don't. Pick whichever super that you want. Ironically, if you want to roll with Storm Trance and give yourself the ability to stun overloads with the jolting little bit of lightning when you activate it, you can do that too. But as you're going to see, we're able to deal with the champs just fine. So pick whichever super you want. I personally like Needlestorm because, again, my goal is to support my fire team or even myself if need be, by giving myself grenade and class ability energy back faster. For abilities, we're going to go with Phoenix Dive, Burst Glide. We're going to 3-stack the Arcane Needle. We will both be using the Arcane Needle as well as our Lightning Surge. And I prefer the Healing Grenade. With the setup that I have right here, you can proc a Healing Grenade pretty much every 10 to 20 seconds. So when I talk about support and things like that, yes, you're able to put out huge damage with this build, but you also will be able to support your allies, especially if it's a very busy situation you find yourself in, and being able to chuck healing grenades all over the battlefield by your allies or even by yourself is very useful. For aspects, we're going to go with Feed the Void. Defeat a target with any ability to activate Devour. Of course, that's going to be related to our melee usage. And Devour effects are improved, restoring additional health and grenade energy as you constantly refresh it. Next up, we're going to be using Lightning Surge. When sliding, activate your charge melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes that jolt targets as you rematerialize. Targets that are hit by your lightning strikes grant you stacks of bold charge. Lightning Surge is going to pair with Felwinter's because any enemy that you don't kill is still going to be weakened. So essentially our play here is going to be jolting and weakening as often as possible. However, if it is a situation where you're picking off enemies for a distance, you don't have to feel like you're compromising your melee because any melee hit, of course, is going to weaken said enemy. It is only when you kill said enemy with the melee that it spreads a weakening blast. For Fragments, we're going to go with Facet of Purpose. Picking up an Orb of Power grants us Woven Mail if you have the Strand super equipped, thereby giving you additional damage resistance. But again, you could easily go and make an argument for running the Arc super, which would of course give you Bolt Charge. You could make an argument theoretically for using Overshield, if you prefer Nova Bomb. Either way, you can't go wrong. Next up, Facet of Awakening. Rapidly defeating targets with light or darkness damage or super final blows generates an elemental pickup of the matching damage type. So elemental pickups we're going to see in this build depending on how you set it up for yourself. We're of course are going to see Void Breaches. We're going to see Ionic Traces. And then potentially we might either see Stasis Shards or even Tangles depending on your usage. Next up, Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. Because we're putting out such high numbers of damage with light weapons, it's important to be able to generate yourself the Darkness Transcendence energy, because honestly, using Lightning Surge is a lot more satisfying than using Arcane Needle in most situations. So you need the ability to proc yourself Transcendent whenever you get a chance, because of course, what does that mean? Oh yeah, you get your melees constantly refreshed when you're Transcendent. Yet another reason Felwinters is so strong this season. Next up, we got Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with darkness damage grants grenade energy. So again, more credence to using your Lightning Surge as much as possible, as well as using really just all your abilities in general, but you're going to be generating a lot of melee energy with your light damage weapon. Last but not least, Facet Protection. This one should be no surprise to anyone who kind of understands the purpose and the premise of this build. Because we're going to be using our Lightning Surge more often than not, it's important to have damage resistance when you are surrounded by enemies. True, we're hoping that our Lightning Surge vaporizes whatever we cast it upon, so to speak. But in the event that it doesn't, and you're kind of just left in a group or whatever of enemies, or if you're using it to stun a champ, for example, you have the ability to get back to a safer distance if need be and continue the carnage without getting roasted and killed. For stat distribution, I recommend speccing into melee, super, and weapons in that order. Any leftover mods you can put into the grenade aspect, but again, if you get to a 70, you should be able to proc your healing grenade roughly every 10 to 20 seconds, assuming you're not just picking off one enemy at a time and going in an ultra slow pace. Believe me, you'll have orbs of power, you're going to get your class ability back, you're going to get your melee back, you're going to, of course, get your grenade back real quick. To put this into perspective, with our melee stat, we're going to get an extra 7% PvE total damage when we use any of our melee. That includes the Lightning Surge. The ability cooldown is 1 minute, so 190% melee energy regen. You should be getting a stack of Arcane Needle to use at your disposal roughly every, I'm just going to call it 30 seconds, if you're using the build as intended. Your grenade, of course, 45 seconds, 112% grenade energy back. I'm at 73. If you're at 70, it's basically 100%. You're really not going to be hurting. You could probably arguably get this to about a 60 or a 55 and probably still be fine. Your super, really all we're interested in is the super energy recharge rate. I don't really care about the extra damage because the whole point of this build is to be a weakening spam build. Weapon stat at 106 is going to give you 15% extra damage, 10% reload and handling, and you're going to give yourself an extra 5% bump to large ammo brick chance, which is nice. And then primary special damage, again, about 1% extra. So nothing to write home about, but you do want the extra 15% because that's going to buff with the weapons we're using. Speaking of weapons that we're using, up first, we're going to roll out with Tina. Welcome back, Tina. It's been a minute since you have entered one of my videos. Tina is excellent this season. If you guys have not been using Tina with Chill Clip to stun your Overload champs, oh, by the way, Sidearm stun Unstoppable champs too. So double bonus for you. You can kill 2 champs with 1 weapon. That Chill Clip is awesome. I highly encourage you to bust out Tina if you've been ignoring her this entire season. If you are not worried about Overload champs, the call is still extremely viable. And if you do pick this, we're going to switch out our heavy weapon too, which I'll get to in a minute. Third iteration is up here on our energy weapon. The key here is being able to put out quick bits of damage without necessarily having to be up close and personal. We're going to be plenty up close and personal with our Lightning Surge. So being able to pick off bosses, champs, whatever, from a distance with our third iteration and spread additional debuffs to the enemies. Of course, it's going to be another way to weaken enemies with our third iteration catalyst. So if you haven't gotten the catalyst, make sure you do that. Every precision final blow causes the target to detonate in a weakening blast. So the goal of this build is to have essentially infinite weakening. Third iteration does a very good job of that. Make sure you are hitting your crits, which means you have to be smart about it. You can't be running in reckless, just spraying and praying. You're not going to proc the weakening. In the heavy slot, Boom Slang. I love this weapon. You see 19 enemies defeated. That's almost insulting to me because I have this on pretty much every every build has a version where I put Boom Slang on because of the jolting feedback and Rolling Storm. It's just too good of a combo to put down. But if you're not worried about that, you can always bust out your Pro Memoria. Now, if you pair this with the Call in your kinetic slot, you will get, of course, the ability, if you're running Needle Storm, to put an extra siphon in your helmet mod. And oh, by the way, if that wasn't good enough, an extra 30% damage boost to bait and switch for this weapon and reconstruction. So 164 rounds of just absolute obliteration is always nice. And because it is a strand weapon, it will siphon with your Call if you do have that equipped. So you can add on to your super regen because of the Dealer's Choice perk. So here we go, Felwinter's Helm. Now you'll see that this is the, it's not an archetype. I've got the old setup, but the stat spikes in this were appropriate for what I was looking for. But if you guys have a better roll of it, maybe like a gunner with a weapons, grenade, melee stat spikes, that'll work fine for this too. Powered melee hits weaken targets, period. Powered melee final blows create a burst of energy that weakens nearby targets. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius of the burst of the length of the weakening effect. So you've heard me say it in seasons past, but I'm going to reiterate this right now. Use a finisher to kill the champs. Every finisher that you use generates a huge weakening blast. I know you guys were watching in the opening video. It's hard to kind of tell how big the weakening blast is because essentially if you're doing your lightning surge or, you know, you're using a finisher on a champ, you can't quite see, you know, 270 degrees around you to see how big it is. But believe me, when you're surrounded by enemies, it's really not going to matter. So what you saw me going through was a master level solo op. However, when you get to Grandmaster or you get to, you know, activities where there's a lot of extra craziness going on. I'm thinking like maybe, you know, the Devil's Lair, for example, on Grandmaster or Master. There is a ton of busyness in multiple spots in that. And that's where this build is, where it really going to shine, is when you are constantly just weakening everything and proccing your invisibility with your third iteration. And oh, by the way, you've got jolting with your lightning surge. That's where Felwinter's literally stands out the best. As far as mods go ahead and set yourself up with whatever general armor mod that you need. Make sure on your helmet you're putting out a heavy ammo finder and a void siphon. And throw on that harmonic siphon. You've only got one energy left remaining anyway, so if you do opt to throw in the strand weapons, you'll get additional orbs of power by using them. For the gauntlets, go ahead and throw on 2 heavy-handeds and 1 fastball. The reason I'm putting on fastball is, hey, sometimes you got to help a friend. If you got to chuck a healing grenade halfway across the map, it helps that you can, you know, throw it over there further, just in case your ordinary throwing distance wouldn't suffice. For the chest armor, go ahead and put on 2 damage resistance mods, and depending on the heavy weapon that you choose, go ahead and either put on the arc ammo generation for your boom slang, or put on your strand ammo for your call and your pro memoria. For the legs, go ahead and put on 1 innervation, 1 invigoration, and 1 absolution. These 3 right here will essentially basically guarantee you that you'll always have constant ability uptime as long as you're picking up orbs of power. Last but not least, because we are going to be using our class ability, throw on a Reaper, a class font, and a bomber. Class font, of course, for those who don't know, and I just found this out not that long ago, it gives a plus 20 to the first orb pickup for the given stat. So whatever the font is, this being our class font, I get a bonus 20 stat to my class, so 33 turns into 53, and it goes up from there. For the artifact, there is not much you can use in terms of void damage per se. However, there are things that you can put on, of course, to beef up what you're trying to do. Make sure you have your anti-barrier and pulse rifle perk on. Put on the unstoppable sidearm and hand cannon as well. In the second column, make sure you have tightly woven on if you are running the strand super so that you can get increased class and grenade stats. Put on rapid precision rifling because we are using a scout rifle. Throw on refresh threads. Picking up an elemental pickup matching your subclass element or tangle while you have a strand super grants energy to your least charge ability. We're going to be able to take advantage of both. And reciprocal draws, since we are using a sidearm in our kinetic slot, make sure you have this on. You will see it proc on the left-hand side of the screen when it is available. Rounding it out, you got Elemental Coalescence, where you get the elemental pickup matching your equipped super. And then Elemental Daze, stunning a champ with an elemental weapon creates an elementally aligned explosion, applying a matching elemental debuff to them and nearby targets. So, weakening upon weakening. And that is the goal of this build, is just to weaken as much as possible. Last but not least, Tangled Web, because we are going to be chucking our Arcane Needle around. We want the additional suspension. And then Shield Crush. Woven Mail gives us melee energy back and increases our melee damage. So, you'll notice when you use Felwinters along with Shield Crush, you are able to kill things a little bit easier. Now, it's not going to be game changer. You're not going to one-phase a boss by just spamming Lightning Surge on it. But it will help whittle it down. And if your goal is to be kind of a support role Warlock in this, where you're just weakening everything and you're taking it out, yeah, this is great solo. Obviously, I was running solo in my opening bit, and I'm going to be running solo in the closing bit. But think about it big picture. When you're in that dungeon, when you're in that raid, when you're in that, the coil, when you're in the onslaught and things are getting hairy, you're in the latter part of it. Having the ability to proc weakening with doing little more than just chucking your Arcane Needle and generating, weakening blasts with your third iteration, yeah, suddenly your allies are going to love you, you're going to love you, and you're going to get through, that chunky boss, that chunky major, that whatever, a lot easier. So one of the reasons I think you should try this build is Felwinters is a great exotic. It is also a featured exotic, so you get an extra bonus damage resistance with that piece of armor. Add to that the fact that you're already getting an additional 10% energy slot weapon damage and 6% power slot weapon damage if you got a tier 3 boom sling like I do. And you mix that with your weapon stat and then all the other things we've already talked about. And you have yourself a very well-rounded player. You can put out some serious damage while also being able to support your allies with healing and generating the ability for your allies to put out more damage themselves by just playing your character as it's designed. So it makes it kind of a universally powerful Warlock build where you don't steal the show, but you're definitely not forgotten about either. If you did find anything helpful in this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you know a Guardian out there who could benefit from a video like this or has never experimented with Felwinters before, go ahead and share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. As always, I will have a dim link in the description of the video. And if by chance you are looking for a non-toxic gaming community, I encourage you to hop into my Discord. I will have a link in the video description. It is booming with a lot of activity, just Guardians helping Guardians, and that's what it's all about. I'm going to switch over to the boss now, and it is not the fastest moving boss fight ever. Okay, I will give you that, but you'll get a chance to see how it functions even in more beefy, chunky type style battles. So here we go, the boss battle. Now, this may or may not be a great battle to showcase this build. This build's going to function in a lot of different areas. Specifically, more so when there's a lot of busyness going on. But even if there's not, let's say that you're running, and I know they seem like they're kind of dead right now, Master or Expert Lost Sectors, and you're just taking your time. You have the ability to proc weakening from any distance on the battlefield, no matter what. So you take your Warlock, who, is equipped with one of the game's best weapons right now in third iteration. You mix in Tina, you mix in the boom sling. On top of that, you have a formidable answer for just about everything that comes your way, whether it's busy or not. And keep in mind, you see those little mosquitoes follow me right there on the screen. Those guys, if I didn't have Woven Mail, would hit me a lot harder. This is Master difficulty that I'm running on. So it's not like this is advanced or even expert. We're in the upper echelon of difficulty, and some of you might say, well, Durf, it's not the Grandmaster. I get it. But, I mean, not everything you're going to do when you're farming for weapons or power is necessarily going to be the most difficult thing you can possibly make it to be. Sometimes you just want to be able to enjoy a build for what it is. But there's no telling how good that build would actually be in Grandmaster, because quite honestly, anytime that you can weaken any enemies in Grandmaster, it's a win. In fact, a lot of the builds that I've used over the years when I've been running Grandmaster, well, I guess strikes. Now it's probably going to be just Grandmaster Portal stuff until they decide if they're ever going to fix up the Vanguard playlist. But either way, you still have a formidable build, and you can still swap things in and out. We haven't even talked about, well, we did for a second, the Call and Pro Memoria. But you take all those things into consideration, you theoretically could throw on the Nova Bomb or the Arc Super. But either way, hopefully you guys like the build. Hopefully you find a new way to use Felwinters that helps you clear all the most difficult activities. I will see you guys next time. Take care.